welcome to Y11 Audio. I'm Alex Alvarado. Thank you for listening. It is exactly football season. It absolutely is here. I'm listening to explosions in the sky. Camp is pretty much wrapping up across the nation. The weather is no longer super damaging and really threatening me. You know, it's comfortable outside. It's hot, but it's getting cool quick. It's getting nice out. It's starting to tell me to grab a hoodie. I can handle the heat. I'm not one of those types that like can't bundle up until like late in the year. I'm a wild guy. But still, the weather's turning. I haven't seen an orange leaf out there yet. But guys, football season's pretty much damn near here. It is next week. It is next week with EMU hosting Sacramento State for week 0. Few other games going on. FCS is really getting started next week. And we're back into it. This is where the fun's really going to begin. The summer's basically over. Doesn't matter how we did. The season means no matter how you are, no matter what you did, no matter how you prepared, let's see you. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you got, because this is it. But thank you for listening. This is Y11 Audio, the podcast extension for the Ypsilanti 11. You can read more of my work at Ypsilanti11.com, where I post regularly about EMU football and more. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, let me tell you about what we got going on today. It's just a lot of like looking forward to stuff today, really. You know, the season's going to start next week. Like I already said, we'll have more once the games actually get started, because it's been waiting season rather for months. And we're at the end of waiting season. And next week we will, no matter how itchy I am for something new to happen in my life now, sports wise, gotta wait one more week before the true excitement begins. But what do we got going on today for this episode during week -1? We'll just look at some things that I've been writing really quickly. I'll tell you about those. Akron, they were exciting, and then they were exciting in the wrong way. Some future plans for this podcast and newsletter, etc., that I want to kind of air out a little bit and just kind of like have like a more concrete idea vocalized to you guys. And then we'll end up with the main topic, the QB1 situations. Let's rank them. At first I wanted to do like a QB1 list, like ranked. Then I was like, nah, let's just throw them into tiers. And then I'm like, you know what? I just like talking about situations better. It kind of is more of an all-encompassing kind of look and framework of things. And it isn't just so like specific to like how is Tommy football, going to do this year, as much as it is like, hey, how are these game managers going to handle the offenses by and large, right? And if you were just drafting the order of like, hey, what would you rather be coaching right now? I kind of just look at it from that sort of perspective. Really quickly, over at Ypsilanti11.com, which you can subscribe to today. Subscriptions run $42 a year. However, doing a sale until like October 10th or 11th, something like that. Whatever that Saturday is. I know it's like the 10th or 11th. That's the last day it runs up. You can get half off a subscription until then. This is an independent, empire over here. We're trying to do some good things. We're going to bring more coverage to Eastern Michigan football. If you've been reading this before, you know sort of what to expect of me football-wise. But I have more to talk about later in terms of adding on to what I want to do here. Because I feel like I've been shooting myself in the foot a little bit here and there. And I've told myself, hey, I want to do more than just football here. But I haven't actually done that. This is going to be the school year where that sort of changes for me. I, however, don't feel comfortable really talking about all those things until I get super organized. But until then, what am I actually writing about at Ypsilanti11.com? What have I been writing about lately? Me getting back into the fold of writing and getting into the covering of this, I really just wanted to do a lot at once. I wanted to spit out a lot of thoughts at you guys kind of at once. And that just wasn't I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I just know that my goal was to at least get my voice on aspects of Eastern Michigan's football team, look at the roster, look at the position groups, and I also wanted to look at the MAC teams. I wanted to look at Sacramento State, unfortunately. Wanted to look at UMass, double unfortunately. Toledo, Bowling Green, Ohio, Miami, Western, all these other schools. Wanted to sort of give some sort of like overview of like what these programs have been through and what got them to where they are at today and what sort of tone do they kind of come into 2026 with. And I didn't really want to like give 5,000 word anthologies about the histories of what these teams have been through, but I did want to give you some sort of like conversation to walk into the season with, some sort of like recent history and long-term track records with each of these teams. And so if you look on like my Y11 notes tags, I have both of those sorts of conversations going where I am looking at the positional previews. I'm giving positional overviews of Eastern Michigan's football roster. Talked about the quarterbacks, talked about O-line, receivers, tight ends, D-line, defensive backs. 3 more posts that, as of this recording, I still have to finish writing and publish out to you before the first game next week. I'm not really worried about that. So we'll still have linebackers, running backs, and specialists to talk about. But those are over at the website. Team notes-wise, I don't want my Y11 notes, before I go any further, the Y11 notes tag, I'm not going to try to make it as long as these posts have been. Moving forward, I do want them to be like kind of quicker for me, something to just like get in and out of my system in about an hour, essentially. Just some quick hitters, just like conversation movers and stuff like that. But until then, like I said, I wanted to kind of get my voice on the MAC teams, all 12 of them outside of Eastern Michigan, and just say like, hey, this is not exactly preview posts, but like they still fill the gap and all that stuff, right? So I would definitely go check those out. I've already posted all of the MAC teams outside of Eastern. That's going to be published in the next couple of days, certainly before my longer preview comes out next week too for Sacramento State week. So that's going to be exciting. But yeah, dozen plus posts of those are already at Ypsilanti11.com. Some of them have been emailed to you if you're a subscriber. Not all of them have. More on that right now. So what are we really expecting for the season from Ypsilanti11.com? It's been kind of like a weird spring summer for me getting back into this. I've been trying to I knew I had the want to of like wanting to get back into this really bad, so I did. I didn't have everything totally thought out, totally concrete, and incredibly organized for myself. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest, still not 1,000% there yet, but I'm much closer than I was a few months ago or even a few weeks ago. For the season, again, like I've said before, I don't want to like send everything your way. I'm not going to email you all of the Y11 notes posts. I want there to be a little bit of a gap between that. I'm telling myself I want to write more and all this stuff. And like, some of it is just like means to an end situation, right? Like, I don't really want, my dream isn't to write a whole bunch of 400-ish word posts. I don't really want to like quick post my way into success or anything like that, because that's not, one, how I view things. Two, it's just not very fulfilling. But like, it is means to an end to have just small little conversations here or there, and then more important things that I really want to bring to your attention into your inbox. I don't think you have an email set up that at least like you're trusting me with, because you want all of the smallest little updates, things that, quite frankly, if I'm just blogging about it and I'm not giving you like firsthand knowledge of it, do you really need to see the same thing that you're reading elsewhere also in your inbox? I don't really know. There has to be a balance there, right? For Y11 notes, reading wise, little quick post. Don't expect those to be in your inbox all the time. That's for the homies at Ypsilanti11.com. That's for people that check out the website. You know how blogs are, right? Remember, you used to just like, hey, what are they saying over there? And then you just like, you read it. That was great. I will have longer posts. I will have multiple posts a week. We're thinking game previews, especially for football season, recaps, follow-up columns, and then just like certain other little stories. We're looking at like, still I'm going to bug you 2, 3, 4 times a week with those posts, and then letting you know that there's a new episode of Y11 audio out there in your feed. Those I plan on publishing like once a week podcast wise. The Y11 notes, because they're so short in my mind, a handful of times a week, daily-ish. And then, of course, the longer posts, which, like I said, 3, 4 times a week. I am kind of like working a lot right here, but it all will work out in my mind. Okay. Again, Ypsilanti11.com. Check it out. $42 a year. Get you a half off subscription for $21 a whole year, so you can get the full experience in your inbox. You know what? I was gonna talk about Akron next, but you know what? Let's keep things going. Let's keep things going with future planning of like what we plan on doing here. I did say at one point, and I'm not lying about this. I still plan on doing things for YouTube. I still plan on posting things and whatnot. For this podcast, I don't plan on doing full-length video-style podcasts onto the YouTube channel just yet. You're hearing my voice right now, right? Like you can hear the podcast however you're doing that. You're probably hearing it on like Spotify or some sort of podcasting app. Maybe it's on YouTube, because these podcasts are still on my YouTube channel. If you just check out Y11, it's the Ypsilanti 11 on YouTube. The full-length audio versions of these podcasts, just like you would on any other app, can still be heard on there if that's your preferred way of hearing stuff like this. But like a full, however long these videos take, of like me talking into a microphone, looking at you in the camera. One, that's just not like where my level of comfort is at just yet. Number two, I don't know if that's the best use of my time quite yet. I know that there's reasons for me to like get plugged into like doing vertical videos, posting those through YouTube Shorts and TikToks and whatnot. And I'm not against that stuff. I'm not above that sort of stuff, right? I'm just not at a place immediately where that's where my efforts need to be pointed at. There's just so much more written work that needs to be done, like I kind of just explained to you and whatnot. And, you know, it's just like just one thing before another, right? I'm sorry if you're the type that only listens to podcasts if there's a video attached to it on YouTube. I'm sorry, I'm not fulfilling your needs right now, but I'm also not apologizing to you because you're not listening to this, right? But I am sorry. But until we're ready for that will just be on hold. But again, I do want to do something on YouTube. I do want to use that because while that's not like an area of the media game that I'm entering very passionately about, I do understand that for somebody like me, that should be a means to an end, right? That should be a place where I can capture more of an audience and, you know, get people who had never considered caring about Eastern Michigan football before can probably give me like a few minutes of their time and attention. So for YouTube, the possibilities of having good outreach, of reaching new people that had never heard of the Ypsilanti 11 before and may or may not want to become readers after that. I know that door is there, and I know that YouTube is a good way of getting through there. And I know that there's an audience out there that I could capture that way. I just have some other things that I need to nail out first. So let me talk about future planning on the additional sports. I'm going to be vague 1, maybe 2 more times on this topic. before I fully announce what I'm going to be doing. As you can already know, football is going to be the main priority for the Ypsilanti 11. That's why it's called the Ypsilanti 11. That's how many people are on the field. However, I do want seriously to move forward in learning about some of the other things that are going on. I've covered some of the other sports before. However, it's been 10 plus years since I've written about other sports going on at Eastern Michigan. And I think it's time for me to get back into that. I think it's time. Now, it's not time yet because football season comes first. The other sports that I plan on covering come later. I'm also not there yet in terms of my homework. So I've already started a little bit of homework personally on some of these things. I'm excited to tell you about what I want to do. However, I'm just not 100% there yet. However, here's what I will tell you. My preliminary plans of expanded coverage outside of football, we're going to cover, these are the only hints I'm going to give you. 2 more teams in the winter and 2 more teams in the spring. And while I don't want to keep being the type of person that's like, oh, just wait until X happens before I do this sort of thing, I really do need to get some homework done first and get some, get a notebook and just like start scribbling in those pages and start like getting serious about knowing these sports before I come out here and just say, hey, here's my coverage, because once I write something, I better have something good to tell you, right? So I think that's pretty much all I can tell you on that. But yeah, I'm excited to do more than just football here at the Ypsilanti 11 and get into the... well, yeah, that's all I'm going to say now. Okay. Let's talk about the news. Akron. Had I done this podcast a week ago, it would have been flowers. It would have been cheers. It would have been, man, that's so exciting. Here's what I would do if I bought a season ticket as a raffle for their promotion. What's their promotion? Buy a season ticket and you enter a raffle. You enter the raffle pretty much as many times as you buy a ticket. It's a 50-50, okay? It's a 50-50. Blah, 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 blah. You have a whole bunch of season ticket purchasers, new and old, returning and never seen before. Some people have never been to an Akron game in their life, are getting season tickets because they want to have their names drawn. Why? Because against Robert Morris, the winner of this raffle gets to be a play caller, a co-offensive coordinator, whatever, and figure out what the scripted drive against Robert Morris should be to open up its game. And that'll be good. That's on its face. Very, very exciting. Like, the tickets are as low as $75, which is really cool. They already sold out all their suites, apparently. So Akron is seeing a lot of financial success with that. But then this week happened, and they announced their top 10 finalists that they drew for this. 2 of them are popular people. The other names are not. One popular person on the internet, James Bordeaux, aka Bordeaux from YouTube. If you were following the EA Sports fight with its partnered content creators over the summer when the this year's version of the video game was released, you'd probably recognize his name for that. Just Google his name for that. He seems like a decent guy. I know he's a Kentucky fan from what I remember. And he showed one screenshot of him sharing that, hey, I only bought 1 ticket for this. So that's his proof of the situation, which is cool. That's what this whole promotion is supposed to be. Doesn't matter if you've ever been to an Akron game in your life or will ever come back to it again. Will you spend the $75 to work with Joe Moorhead to script a drive against Robert Morris? Some people have worked their whole lives to call offensive drives against lower level opponents and whatnot. Like, People have worked harder for less. You know, this is cool. This is just cool. It's a team that needs money, and you can just like have whatever ideas you want to Joe Moorhead, and he could just say no, and that's fine. But the one that's drawing a lot of attention is the dude from Barstool named Big Cat. Don't really care to say his name. I don't know what his name is either. Actually, I do know what his name is. I don't care to say it. But I guess he bought, as he said in this tweet, 18 season tickets. And he's like, yeah, I don't care, whatever. Okay. You're cool, man. You're cool. I need to, like, figure out where, like, my level of annoyance is with Barstool's relationship with the Mac. Because it is just, like, I don't know. It just feels like it's a pet thing for them. I don't know. It's just a weird, like, I just don't understand, like, the diehard connection between the Mac and Barstool. I just don't understand that relationship. And I don't understand what's so cool about someone who's like, yeah, I bought 18 tickets, so what? Like, yeah, it's a 50-50 freaking style of raffle. This isn't cool. Yeah, I agree. This is really dumb, and you shouldn't be allowed to buy multiple tickets for this. Literally, it should just be one. Like, that's it. Like, no matter how many season tickets you buy, you really should just be limited to one, but whatever. I'm going to go down the list of candidates. They narrowed the field down to 10. Akron did. The first two I just said, those were the two of the names drawn. They drew 8 more. I'm going to skip to one who just said no thank you. I'm just going to skip one that said no thank you. So I'm looking at this list, by the way, at bythebelt.com. People who were at Hustle Belt when the blog itself was shut down from its parents. So the writers just like started up a new blog of their own, By the Belt. And so I'm checking out James' post over here, and I'm looking at the list of names over here. One anonymous finalist dropped out of the running upon getting the call. So that left the finalist list at 9 as opposed to 10. No, that's not the full story. They drew 10 names. One guy said no thank you. That doesn't mean the list has to end at 9. Akron, draw another fucking name. Come on. Are you kidding me? Like, if people want to wear their tinfoil hats and say that this is all like a rigged conspiracy situation, and they picked 2 content creators, one who bought a lot of tickets, one who just so happened to luckily only buy 1 ticket per his screenshot shared on the internet. And then you have another finalist who's just like, I'm just going to drop out of this. And then you have another 4th finalist that I will read right now. Brandon Wiggin of Bellevue, Nebraska. Wiggin has not answered inquiries from the university about his availability. Okay, cool. Then you have another one, a 1989 graduate of Akron. His name is Steve. He's had season tickets for football and basketball for some time now, apparently. And he said, quote, he would allow Joe Moorhead the flexibility to be his own boss if he wins. Okay. So we have 2 content creators. We have 3 people that are just like either not answering the phone or just like, you know what? I think Joe Moorhead's doing great. You guys, I don't want to have fun with it. You do it. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I'm actively rooting for somebody to, like... The guy who hasn't answered his phone, Brandon, pick up the phone. I'm hoping Mr. Wiggin has no idea that this promotion is going on. I really hope that Mr. Wiggin... 1, I hope that he's okay. Number 2, I hope that he has no idea this is going on and just has a voicemail waiting for him saying, hey, do you want to call some plays against Robert Morris in a couple weeks? Like, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry I didn't answer. I was just at this Madden tournament. Sorry, I was just out there just like hosing your nephew. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll show him how it's done. That's what I hope. That's what I'm hoping for. Some other ones. Mr. Jack Rooney from Long Island. Quote, guaranteed a touchdown on the first drive. Okay, let's see. Let's look at another one. Marty Allen Wims II, an Akron native who has had season tickets since InfoCision first opened in 2008. That's pretty cool. Mike Beck, a CEO of Polymer Valley Chemical, a longtime Akron season ticket holder, and a Division III player, a former Division III player, before he transferred to Monmouth once upon a time. Sean Struncius? I'm really... Struncius is what I'm going to go with. This bullet says short passes are his specialty, and he wants guys to, quote, speed up with the ball. Another man, Tim from Texas, works with TaxFile. Bullet point says, promise to run the ball, quote, despite his bad knees. Tim, I'm looking at this picture of you, Tim, that they posted. Tim, you're not that old, brother. Like, I don't know if you know how this works, but you're just the coach. Dude, if coaches could play, what is Eddie George doing on Bowling Green sideline? I'm sorry, Tim, that's not how this works. No, you just have to, like, all you got to do is talk to a guy in a walkie-talkie. That's it. All you got to do is say, hey, no, whoa. I said dive. I said for him to dive, not me. That's all you got to do. But I do appreciate your promise and enthusiasm to run the ball. You know what I would do? I'm just doing this off the top of my head. You know what I would do? I would definitely, like, the plays that I think I would utilize most if I were given the opportunity, because here's what I think. If I'm a defense going up against Akron in week 1, I'm not doing anything special on my best day. I'm not doing anything special anyways. Right? I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not doing anything that's not like a base look. I'm not putting too much on film anyways. I'm just going to run, I don't know what Robert Morris does with defense. If I'm a cover 2 team and doing like, if I'm just like an even front, 4 down linemen, 2 safeties, just a basic ass like cover 2, Tampa 2 situation, just play zone. We're not going to get too crazy with it. We're definitely not going to get embarrassed on this like Mickey Mouse situation where like, oh my gosh, the Akron family can get together with its paying fans, or the guy from Barstool, one of the two. They're just going to play it safe, and they know that there's going to be a trick play thrown at them. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to run draw. That's the first run play I do. It isn't dive. It isn't power. It isn't option. It isn't double reverse. It isn't the annexation of Puerto Rico. It's none of those. I'm running draw. You're going to think I'm going to pass it because you know what? That's what you want me to want to do. And then I'm just going to give it to my running back. I'm going to do that twice. And then I'm going to play action draw. And then I'm just going to do another play action and then another draw. I'm going to do things very stupid like that. However, I understand that the problem that immediately poses is that my offensive line is doing some work immediately. Like, these plays have to last for a little bit of time. And at which point, after, a couple draw plays, you do it, you draw them short with slants, and then you go deep. And that's how you guarantee the touchdown. Draw, play action, draw, slants, go. That's it. Now you might be thinking, well, the script should be like 15, 25 plays. I only need 6. We're good. Don't worry about it. And also, of those 6 plays, we're running the same draw play twice. Like, it's fine. It's okay. So that's what I'm doing. And outside of that, if that fails, bro, I don't care. I'm not the football coach. Fire me. Fire me on the spot. I don't give a shit. Let's end this by looking at the MAC quarterbacking situations. We might not know who the QB1s are across the league. We might not know if so-and-so can do well during a coaching change in their new position, throwing to new receivers, etc., etc. There's so many variables that go into ranking quarterbacks, whether it's, like I said at the top of the show, talking about the tiers, talking about QB1s, just talking about their own space in this, their coaches. There's so much that goes into this. But at the end of the day, a lot of it just comes down to how talented is your room. If one guy goes down, what's the promise that this team can just keep things going, can just win games in spite of everything else going wrong for them? How confident should you be in your QB2 situation? How confident should you be in your receiver rooms carrying your quarterbacks or vice versa? And also, how much are we banking on these new transfers to get right away? So 13 teams, 13 situations. Let's look at this very, very quickly. All right, my number one situation in the MAC, Western Michigan, headed by Brock Lowry, who was the league MVP last year with more touchdowns rushing than he did throwing. Behind him, there's an Illinois transfer coming in. Brock Lowry himself was an Indiana transfer at one point. Another guy, Mason Reynolds, behind them. Listen, you come back with a big offensive line. You come back with a trustworthy running back right next to you. You come back with some decent receivers to throw to already. And you're the reigning MAC champion. Come on. I'd be overthinking it to not put them up top. Number 2, is this a homer pick? Eastern Michigan, led by Noah Kim. No question about it that he's going to be back as the starter. There's not a lot of competition. Next to him, there's a Yale transfer, Brogan McKee, who's coming in. Jay Stuckey, who's been around in the program for now his 3rd year from small town Indiana. There's maybe some promise there, but we just haven't really seen them. McKee, he's only played in a few games at Yale too, so it's not like Eastern took somebody like a multi-year starter to battle Kim. But still, Kim, didn't end the year on a high note. I want to throw that out there. Ended it pretty poorly against Western Michigan, and so I'm sure there's a lot of emotion and fire that he's going to come into this season and that game when that comes up with. But Noah Kim, some decent receivers to throw to. Yes, a tight end and a wide receiver both have all MAC 2025 next to their names, but they're not the best looking all MAC players that we've seen at those positions either. There's still so much out of both of those guys to be desired from. Long's a good pass catcher, but he's a very, very subpar run blocker too. And Nick Devereaux, the receiver, it took him some years to develop into that role. There's not a guarantee that, and he's not a guy that was a week 1 starter either. He's someone that had to kind of grow a little bit more into his position and only had one game where he was over 100 yards receiving too. So I think Kim's got some ability. I think he understands the offense a lot. And there should be some trust with him and his receivers. There were some breakout performances, especially with Harold Mack. But is he going to be the type that reaches that puts Eastern above where it's been punching lately? Eastern's desperate to get back to real winning ways and be a real gritty team in the MAC, and it's just kind of lost some of its some of the things that made it really impressive even 3-4 years ago. It's just been kind of lost. But that said, even though Eastern was 4-8 last year, this is one of those teams where if you just do a few things a little bit better, you could get a lot better. So a turnaround year, it could definitely happen. But is Kim going to be the reason that Eastern improves on the year? Is Kim going to just outclass himself, right? Is he going to be so much better than what he was last year? I don't know. Number 3 on the list, I had to put Toledo here. They felt pretty confident with John Allen Richter when Mike Jacobs took over, but they also brought in a D2 transfer from Lenore Ryan. Wouldn't be surprised if that man, Kamani Robinson, made an appearance or two, especially in the first couple games in the year where you have some wiggle room to give guys opportunities like that before, you get really put under a microscope in MAC play. But Toledo, it's been a talented roster before. It seems like it's going to be a talented roster again this year. A different looking version of talent because of where they're getting guys from. A lot of FCS all-conference first-teamers and FCS All-Americans of some sort have been coming into the fold for Toledo. So it's a good-looking group, but it's just not a familiar one. And through a coaching change, it's just like, I don't know. But these are guys that also didn't start in the MAC last year. Richter has a little bit of playing experience, but not too much. So it's kind of like a wait and see, but I still think Toledo's in a really good spot to not make a serious drop off. And I do think that, their quarterbacks are going to be prevalent in this offense yet again. Central Michigan, I put them 4th, and I don't think that Central Michigan's a great passing team either. However, when you have returning cast, when you have, Angel Flores, or is it Angel Flores? I'm gonna guess it's Angel Flores. I think it's Angel Flores. This is that's one of those names where I read it, I don't really hear it as much as I read it, and I don't know. But anyways, Angel Flores was the team's leading rusher last year before he suffered a knee injury, and that was week 11, week 12, something like that. And that was the identity of Central Michigan. So if your quarterback is doing what the offense wants to do to win, you're doing your job. You don't have to be you don't have to be like the next, I hate saying the name, Ben Roethlisberger, or like a deep downfield passer to really be a good quarterback in the MAC. You just have to do what your coach says. That's pretty much the name of the game here. Jayden Glasser, he's been making strides. It sounds like Marcus Beeman, he's more of a runner, but he does have some experience. It's a group that has, last year in its first year with Matt Drinkle as the head coach, they've been running a 2-quarterback system where Flores was the main runner. Joey Labus graduated out, was the main thrower. Wouldn't be surprised if they snuck more of that strategy in again, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Central started dialing down on that and started saying okay, we actually have a true QB1 this year. But that also depends on someone like Glasser, most notably, to just step up and show that, hey, I can be a great thrower and a decent runner every once in a while. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Flores is still the change of pace quarterback who can run it between the tackles a little bit. The rest of this gets hard. The rest of this you can kind of shuffle up in a lot of different ways, and I probably wouldn't disagree too much with you. But I think you got to make room for Akron at this point. I think you kind of have to make room for Reese Poffenbarger, even though he hasn't shown anything in the last couple of years at his last couple of schools. You know that there's some ability with him, and for what he did at Albany in a couple years there, was one of the best FCS players as a redshirt freshman. But he's someone who started at Old Dominion. I don't know if he played too much there. Went to Albany, definitely played there and did really, really well. Went to Miami, Florida, was a backup to eventual number 1 pick Cam Ward, who he was also someone who was a road tripper himself. He was at Incarnate Word, and then he was at Washington State before he went to Miami. Poffenbarger was not the starting quarterback. He was number 2 to the eventual number 1 NFL draft pick. And then at North Texas, he was kind of expecting to be the guy there, but he ended up losing the job to, oh man, I'm blanking on the guy's name already. Drew Mestemaker now at Oklahoma State, who follows Eric Morris, the former head coach there. But Mestemaker himself, he wasn't like somebody who came into college football with, even the amount of success that that Poffenbarger was able to build up at Albany. Mestemaker was last seen as a starter on his high school JV team, and then he ended up being, in just a year, the nation's leading passer at the D1 level. That's crazy. Now he's at Oklahoma State. That's crazy. So Reese Poffenbarger was behind a wild number 1 draft pick, because the Cam Ward thing, he came from a system in high school that, like, I think he was just like a wing T triple off, like a run triple offense in high school. And then he ended up being a crazy good passer at Washington State and at Miami. So he sat behind him there, and then think about North Texas. Okay, things are going to be good. No. But I don't think there's going to be a Drew Mestemaker here at Akron that's going to keep Poffenbarger down in the depth chart. He's going to be the number 1 quarterback. He's going to be the guy that, he's as hungry as Joe Moorhead is, I see, right? Like, Joe Moorhead wants to finally get this team to that 6th win and get to a bowl game for the first time since the Terry Bowden years. Wow. And Poffenbarger, he's hungry for an opportunity to finally show that, hey, I'm still as good, if not better, than what I showed at Albany. And if it takes him finally going to Akron to show it, to play for Joe Moorhead and do it in his offense, then so be it. Because, that's where we're at now. But that kid's shown some ability. He's going to be a good passer. And yeah, I think if Akron's going to get to a bowl season and have 6 wins next to its name, this quarterback has to be the reason for it. A few more names. We're going to speed this up because I don't want to keep doing this forever. Sacramento State, Carson Conklin. He's a boomerang transfer. And what I mean is that he started at Sacramento State, did well as a freshman. I think he was like was he like a Walter Payton like finalist or something like that? He did really, really well as an All-American or as an FCS player his freshman year. Went to Fresno State, didn't do really much there, and then came back to Sacramento State. However, that head coaching position's changed twice since then, because he left when he saw that he wasn't going to be getting the same amount of playing time with Sean Marion when he took over as head coach in the go-go offense that he constructed. So that's when he went to Fresno State. And then he came back after Sean Marion left. Alonzo Carter was hired in. Sacramento State, no longer in its old conference. Now it's playing in the MAC for football. This is pretty crazy. There's a few other transfers on this roster too, but I think Carson Conklin, for what he showed, I think he's going to be the name to watch here. Ball State has a couple of guys on this roster that are pretty interesting, and they're next after Sacramento State. But neither of them really... Well, Keldrick Luster, he's probably going to be the day one starter. Started at SMU, was at Texas State last year. He's he's a thick body, 5'10", 250-ish. And then there's Tyler Meisel, who started out at Wake Forest, played pretty well at D2 level Concord last year in West Virginia. Those are the two names to watch there. I don't really know how skilled and how great of a passing team this is going to be, but I definitely think that the hardcore running from the quarterback spot for Ball State, considering where Mike Yuramovich has been, considering that he, is a NIU in its best days, Dave Doran as well, coached with them, I think, and there was a lot of quarterback run last year when they rebrought Kyle Kelly, who was a quarterback in the Mike New era, went to cornerback, and then came back to quarterback to start this new era of the Mike Yuramovich years. There's going to be some quarterback run. Luster's a thicker dude. I think he's going to be tough to bring down. And yeah, so like I don't know what the passing acumen for this team's going to be, but I don't think it'll be non-existent either. I think Ball State's going to be in a pretty decent spot. Will it be in a spot to like win more games than it should? I don't know. That's going to take a total team effort. And I don't know if these quarterbacks are of the skill to do it, but they at least starting in as those two starting at Southern Methodist and Wake Forest, you know that they at least had a decent start to their college career, so there is some promise there. Buffalo, I got Buffalo next. The rest of the bottom half of this group is really hard to figure out, so I have Buffalo next. One, I trust Pete Lembo to figure things out. Two, I'm just hopeful that Elijah Holmes, who had a really good touchdown interception ratio at D2 Wingate, can translate his skills over here and not be someone that makes too many mistakes, because Buffalo, like I've said before, is a place where you can definitely win games and punch above your weight class if you just don't make mistakes. And I think Holmes has the ability to, if the smarts he already has with the amount of smarts and trust that I, if you've heard me before, just automatically give Pete Lembo. You know, I think that there could be some good synergy there. Pete Lembo doesn't always need the most skilled and most talented quarterbacks to have good teams. He just needs really good decision makers. And I know that's like the name of the game for quarterbacks, but I think Lembo knows how to figure things out with the kinds of guys that Holmes is, because he's, you know, I've seen Lembo work with not incredibly talented quarterbacks before, and I'm not saying Holmes isn't talented or doesn't have a lot of ability or whatever, but I'm just saying that he started at D2 Wingate. I'm not expecting his ceiling to be like the guys at Ball State, right? But I do think that that Buffalo has a chance to be good with Elijah Holmes. Ohio, you're next. I think that that's an interesting group, and like I think there are like three quarterbacks that really could see the field this year. Nick Paulos perhaps is going to be like the early season starter, him or Matt Vezza, but Levi Davis is the true freshman that a lot of people have circled for a lot of reasons, but he was like just like an all-time prospect for Ohio, somebody who brought his high school their first state basketball and football titles when he was a senior for football and junior for basketball. Or was it the other way around? Doesn't matter. Levi Davis is definitely a talented, exciting name to watch. And if he's not on the field this year, definitely keep him in your mind for 2027. But he's definitely a name that everyone's going to be like waiting for this year, especially if you're an Ohio fan. Kent State, you're next with Drew DeShields. You guys did really good last year. I don't know if the same luck is going to happen for you guys this year, but I thought he was a really spunky dude. And I thought that, you know, I liked the way that he played last year. You get Kent State to 5 wins. I'm pretty confident in you, but you play for Kent State. How confident am I in you to get them to another 5-win season or to a bowl win? I don't really expect it. You're still Kent State. A lot of things have to break right for you, but I'm going to be honest, man. I've seen some worse quarterbacks at that school. Drew DeShields is pretty good. But I don't know really who's after him. Like, if he goes down, like, are the other guys going to be able to step up? I don't know. Miami, you get a couple of transfers. David McComb, a redshirt freshman from Kansas, and Caleb Heavner from Fort Hays, the D2 level. Heavner's did a lot of damage at his old school, but McComb didn't play at all. But you're Miami. You should be able to figure it out. This is probably the least confident I've been in your quarterback room since year one Gus Ragland. So that's fine. I think you're doing all right. Last two teams on here, UMass, led by Pop Watson, who was like a state Gatorade Player of the Year in high school. Didn't really do too much at Virginia Tech. Now he comes to UMass. Okay. Maybe. We'll see. You yourself seem pretty individually talented. good luck. You play for UMass. And then Bowling Green, probably should have them above UMass, but I just don't know, man. I just don't trust the Eddie George situation. I'm sorry. If you're into that, cool. I just don't know. You did get Austin Novostad, who was at Oregon before, was like a blue chip quarterback out of high school. There's a Jay Castenton. Is that how you say it? From D2 Assumption College. Had some decent stats last year, but there's a lot of D2 quarterbacks on here. Not everybody's going to do well. I could be wrong about Elijah Holmes at Buffalo or Caleb Huebner at Miami, but there's no proof that there's no reason to really believe that Castenton is going to be important for Bowling Green's offense this year either. And so even last year, we saw how horrible things can get for Bowling Green when they don't have the quarterback situation figured out, let alone healthy. You would think by year 2 in this day and age, the quarterback spot is figured out for Bowling Green. If not for QB1, then at least the backups can at least play better than they did last year. But I don't know, man. I just don't know what to believe out of Bowling Green or UMass. Really, you can just shuffle those two, and I'm not going to argue either way. But that's it. 13 quarterback situations across the MAC. Looked at, thought about, shoulders shrugged at, and ranked for you. Again, thank you again for listening to this. Check out Ypsilanti11.com for more written information. We've got week 0 coming up. It's going to be an exciting time. I'll talk to you guys next week.